Hey, my name is James. I'm the pastor of The Rising, and I am so excited that you tuned in. This is our podcast. Welcome. I hope this message that you hear is going to inspire you, encourage you, and motivate you to grow closer to God. I hope you lean forward with an expectant attitude, and remember, you're changed not by the word that you hear, but by the word that you do. So get ready to put into practice this word. Come on, let's listen. You know, when I was a kid, I used to chew Big League Chew. You remember Big League Chew? They still have it. I have it at Five Below, and they got all kinds of different flavors. I used to love the 6-foot tape bubble gum. Anybody remember that? Come on now, the 6-foot tape. Yeah, I didn't chew it a lot because I felt like it was a delicacy, and I always wanted to save it. And I started feeling anxiety when I got near the end of the tape. But since 2007, I'm not gonna be able to do this message with that. But since 2007, the sale of bubblegum has dropped by 15%. 15%. Do you know what happened in 2007? The iPhone was introduced. Right? See, bubblegum is an impulse buy. You don't go to the store looking to buy bubblegum unless you're a fourth grader in a Little League baseball game in need of some Big League Chew. No, bubblegum is that thing that you pick up when you're in the checkout line waiting to pay for your groceries, and you see it right there in front of you. You pick it up. Right? But gum sales have diminished since the introduction of the iPhone. Here's why. One study observed that 62% of people whipped out their phone while waiting in line, and 80% of those people took their phone out in less than 20 seconds. Right? So why have gum sales gone down? Here's why. Because most people aren't looking at the gum anymore. We're looking at our phones, right? And this leads me to wonder, what if we're missing more than just the gum that's around us because we're glued to our phones? See, this global tech company, Asurion, found that the average person looks at their phone 96 times a day, about once every 10 minutes, with the average phone usage time, according to ZDNet, being 5.7 hours a day for millennials and 5 hours a day for baby boomers, right? So on average, we're looking at our phone 5 hours a day. In January, I preached a sermon, My Relationship with the Thing in My Pocket. And you can go back and listen to it on our site and also on our podcast. But I talked about this very relationship that we have with our phones. And I said, it's time for a cellular exodus. It's time to get free from our phones. I shared my screen time during that sermon, and it was an hour and 50 minutes. So an hour and 50 minutes a day I was on my phone. I just checked my screen time recently while I was writing this message, and I found that my screen time is now 4 hours and 37 minutes a day. Yeah. I preached a sermon in January about how our phones have a grip on us, and it's time for an exodus from the device. And since then, my screen time has gone up by 161%. Come on, Pastor, practice what you preach. I know, look, hey, but before you judge, it's a pandemic, and I started a TikTok account, right? I mean, come on, TikTok takes a lot of time. But let me ask you, if you were around in January and you heard that message, did you do anything to change your life? Right? If you've been around for these recent series that we've been in during this pandemic, let me ask you, have you moved beyond tuning in to turning some stuff around in your life? See, look, We're not changed by the word that we hear, but we're changed by the word that we do. And I've found, even recently, I need to revisit it. I need to revisit Exodus planning when it comes to my device. And I'd guessed most of you are with me. So, in this series called Chasing Happy, we're in this series called Chasing Happy. And just last week, I said that happiness is spelled F-O-C-U-S. And if we're going to catch happiness, we have to eliminate the distractions of worry, drama, negativity, and a poor perspective, and see happiness that's all around us, right in front of us, right in front of our face. Today, I want to invite you to remove what's right in front of your face so that you can see the happiness all around you. King David, one of the greatest kings in the history of Israel, wrote tons of poems that we have recorded for us in the Old Testament book of Psalms. And in Psalm 16, he writes about trusting and following God, and he concludes with this line. Psalm 16, verse 11, he says this, "You show me the way of life, granting me the joy of your presence and the pleasures of living with you forever." You will show me the way of life, granting me the joy of your presence. Look, joy is deeper than happiness. See, happiness can be fleeting, and it's good to be happy, right? Solomon, one of the greatest kings who succeeded David, Solomon, David's son, reminds us that it's good to be happy, and God wants us to be happy. And this is what we talked about last week, Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 7. He said, "So go ahead, eat your food with joy, drink your wine with a happy heart, for God approves of this. Wear fine clothes with a splash of cologne." So God approves of us being happy, but David mentions joy, which drives deeper than happiness. See, joy moves beyond feelings to being a state of being. It's like when I have joy, it's like no matter what is going on in my life, I don't have to despair or be depressed because I got this joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Down in my heart, where down in my heart to stay. That's why I'm not the worship leader. But David says about God in the Psalms, he says, "God, you show me the way of life." And so even though death seems to surround me and things are falling apart around me, I know the way of life in God. So even though my happiness may be drained, I still have joy, because I know the way of life. He says, "God, you show me the way of life. You grant me the joy of your presence. My happiness may be nowhere to be found, but I still got joy." Why? Because God is all around. My happiness may not be found, but I got joy because God is all around. Did you write that down? Come on, I'm rhyming for you. My happiness may not be found, but I got joy because God is all around. Write that down. So, he says, "You show me the way of life, and I have joy because I'm in your presence." Look, God shows us the way of life, which gives us joy, and happiness follows. But we can't see it if we got this in front of us all the time. I can't see the way of life if I got this in front of me all the time. Look, I just want to show you, if God is showing us joy and we got this in front of us all the time, it's going to block out what God is trying to show us, because this is all we see. Dr. Elizabeth Dunn, a professor in the Department of Psychology at the University of British Columbia, conducted a study where a restaurant allowed them to take over a table in the restaurant. They said, "Yeah, you can have this table." So they conducted this experiment for months where when people sat at the table, they said, "Hey, we'll cover your tab if you'll just fill out some surveys for us after your meal," right? And so what they did was they flipped a coin, and depending on what came up, they said to the people, "Hey, we just want you to enjoy your meal with your phones out and readily available, Or if the coin flipped the other way, they said, enjoy your meal absent of the presence of phones. And what they found over and over again, after several months, study after study, people said that they enjoyed themselves less and felt less connected with those around them when phones were out and available, as opposed to those who put their phones away, right? See, this thing that was designed to help us distracts us and saps our happiness. And it goes beyond just being distracted by looking at and engaging with our phones. Another experiment was where people were given free massages, and they just had their phone in the same room as them. So they weren't looking at them, they weren't engaging in them, they just had their phone in the same room as them. And half of the participants received a call or a notification beep during the massage, and even though they didn't look at the phone or check it after the massage, the people who received the notification of the call reported significantly less enjoyment from the massage than those that didn't get the ping. Like, just the presence of the phone with a waiting notification lessened their enjoyment of the experience because there was this nagging, hey, remember me, look at me, I'm here, reminder of something that was missed. And look, if you're a parent, I don't know if you experience this, but there are times where I find myself mindlessly scrolling through Facebook or Instagram or TikTok while my kids are watching something on TV or playing. And even now, just thinking about the optics of that makes me embarrassed and ashamed because here are my kids, right? These two little people I love so much who won't remain cute and little forever. I only have borrowed time with them. And they need connection, and they need love, and they need interaction from me. But my focus is on my phone, while their focus is on a TV screen. I mean, here we are, in the same room, on the same couch, and yet we couldn't be farther apart from one another in that moment. The same is true with my interaction with my wife at times, right? It's the same exact picture. We're on the couch watching something on Netflix, but we're also watching something on our phone, and we couldn't be more disconnected. It's amazing to me that this thing that was invented to create greater social interaction actually diminishes it. And here's what we know. When we have great social interaction with others, our happiness level increases. But this device is draining our happiness. And what is it, right? I mean, what is it about our phones that distracts us? Because I know I'm not the only one. I can't be the only one, right? Like, why isn't it that a book or a Rubik's Cube are the things that distract us, right? Here's why. Two reasons why our phones distract us so much. Number one, it's portable, and we have access to the entire world through it. I mean, through your phone, you have access to infinite news articles, pictures of sunsets and food, endless cat videos, ridiculous lists of celebrity lookalikes, all the music in the world ever, podcasts, books, DIY tutorials, recipes, a shopping cart for every store that exists. Like, all the things anywhere and everywhere are accessible right through your phone. See, here's the thing. We would never wheel around a wheelbarrow filled with fun, interesting, and distracting things in it and just dig through our wheelbarrow at dinner to find something to distract ourselves while someone is talking, right? I mean, it's just not practical to do something like that. But we do this all the time with our phones. We're at dinner, we're with other people, we're engaging in something, and we pull out our phone and we engage in this practice of fubbing. Fubbing. You know what fubbing is, don't you? It's the act of snubbing someone while you're looking at your phone. And we all do it, every one of us. In a survey, 9 out of 10 people said they get offended when someone they're talking with starts looking at their phone. But 75% of people admit to fubbing. And beyond fubbing, 95% of people report that they've used their phone during social interactions. So they're in a room full of people, they're there in front of someone, and they pull out their phone and are miles away. They're distracted by what's in front of them, right? And here's why all this matters. Because in our search for happiness, as we chase for happiness, as we look at our phones to deliver what we're looking for, the studies and the research show that we come up short when we turn to our phones. See, when we think about someone being happy, we have a face for that, right? It's a smiley face. When we see someone smiling, we associate that with happiness. Well, Dr. Elizabeth Dunn, who I mentioned earlier, shared about an experiment that she conducted. She put together strangers in a room, like total strangers. Now, this is pre-COVID-19, of course, but she put total strangers together in a room, and there were several different groups of people at several different times. And she observed them for 10 minutes and recorded their facial features. And for some of the groups that they observed, they let everyone have their phone and they let them access it and use their phone. And then for other groups, they took their phones away. And what they noticed for the groups that had their phone was that people chose to interact with their phone more than they chose to interact with the individuals right there in front of them. They also noticed that the group who had phone access smiled 30% less than the group who had no phones. Like, the group with no phones interacted with one another. They started conversations with one another. They had a deeper, richer connection with one another, and they smiled more. See, when everyone was debriefed after that, not only did the cameras pick up more smiles from the group with no phones, but the feedback that was given from these groups indicated a greater feeling of happiness from those people who didn't have their phones out. So, what we find is that when we don't interact with our phone, we smile more and we experience greater happiness. So, how do we focus on the happiness that's all around us? How do we focus on the path of life that God shows us and enjoy the joy of His presence instead of constantly fixating on our phones? I preached on this in January, and I don't know if there was a change for you. So let's see if we can put some stuff into action here and now and make a change, right? Here's some practical ways, things that you can do to fixate on the phone in front of your face less. Here we go. Number 1, shut off notifications, right? Email, text, Instagram comments, messenger notices, Facebook comments, YouTube uploads, new podcast episodes, all of it. Shut off as many notifications as you can, because the notifications that pop up are like little gerbils that show up out of nowhere and scream, "Look at me, stop what you're doing, I'm here, I need you, I'm important, you're important, someone likes your sunset picture, come on." Like, shut off as many notifications as you can, because these become constant distractions throughout the day. Number 2, keep your phone in a separate room while you're working, or when you're with your family or friends. Like, keep your phone in a separate room. Don't have it out. Charge your phone in a separate room. Create some social distancing between you and your phone. Treat your phone like it has COVID, right? Number 3, make your phone more boring. Just make it boring so you don't even want to look at it. So turn the home screen to grayscale, unless of course you're using one of our wallpapers, and then keep doing that and make it really exciting. But for the most part, keep your home screen like boring and on grayscale. Make it so that when you open your phone, the first page of apps are all tools. Like not fun time wasters where you can get lost for hours. Just make it all tools, right? Also, consider deleting those time-wasting apps, right? Now look, you can always re-download them if you need to. And if you don't want to delete them, that's fine. Just put them like several pages away on your phone and put them in folders so it makes it really difficult to access. Like, you have to be thoughtful to actually go to those apps. And then number 4, finally, become mindful of what you're doing with your phone. I mean, we often mindlessly engage with our phone, reaching for it out of habit. When we're bored, we don't have anything else going on. When we're in front of people and we just want to escape, we mindlessly reach for it. We reach for it maybe to check the time or to check the weather, or to check to see if anyone liked or commented or engaged with something that we did. We reach for it just to check our emails, just to see, am I important? Are people caring about me? Did people notice me? So, in becoming mindful, I want to invite you to stop and ask these 3 W questions. So, the first one is this: what for? What for? Like, why did I pick up my phone in the first place? I mean, is there a reason for this, or was it just out of habit? So what for? The second why question, or W question, is this: why now? Why now? What was the trigger that caused me to pick up my phone? Is it because I'm just bored? Am I trying to escape? Why now? What for? Why now? And then finally, what else? What else? What else could I do in this moment instead of looking at my phone? What else? Right? Could I be taking time to talk to the person in front of me? Could I engage with my wife? Could I engage with my kids? Could I finish that project? Could I be reading a book, learning something new, being present? What else could I be doing in this moment instead of just looking at my phone? See, in January, I preached on taking a cellular exodus, and it's clear this is a process. I mean, I've made backwards progress, right? Maybe you have too, but this is a process, and the journey continues, and it may take time to sever the ties that tether our phones to our eyes, preventing us from seeing the happiness all around us. But together, we can find and experience happiness if we'll put the phone down. Chase after God, because He's showing us the way of life. He's bringing joy and happiness by His presence. And really, when we chase after God, that's when we'll find the happiness we long for. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I pray you were inspired, encouraged, and motivated by what you heard. And I'm so grateful you had a chance to listen in. I'm also so grateful for everyone who financially gives to the work of this ministry so that we can continue to do the work that we do and get the word out like we do. And I want to invite you, if you're encouraged or blessed by this ministry, to consider giving if you haven't already. Also, be sure to check us out at wearetherising.com. Follow us on social media. See how you can get involved and go from being someone who watches to being someone who's involved. Again, thanks again for tuning in. And I pray that this is the best week ever coming up, because what we know is the best is yet to come.